Hi everyone, and thank you so much for joining me. Today's video is going to be me sharing my favourite new series reads of 2021. So what do I mean by a new series read? So basically I mean any series that I started in 2021. It doesn't necessarily have to be a new release in 2021, just as if I've started the series in 2021, then it's eligible for this list. I haven't quite decided the order of which that I'm going to put my videos up, but I'm also going to be filming a how I spreadsheet and track my manga video, and if I've already put that up, you're likely going to have already seen how many new volume 1s I started in 2021, but I'm fairly sure it's like 180. So I had quite a big list to choose from this, but I have managed to narrow it down to 10. I'm fairly happy with the 10 I chose, but I did feel more drawn to series that I've read more recently, just because they're more fresh in my mind. I think I'm quite happy with what I've chosen. I also tried to order them, and I'm going to show them from my number 10 to my number 1, but again, I feel like the ones that I've read more recently are likely going to get and be more happy with. Yeah. Let me just show you what I've got. Just before we get into it, don't forget to give this video a like, and if you're new, consider subscribing. We'd love to have you. Also, let me know in the comments down below what your favourite new series read of 2021 was. I would love to hear, especially if they're ones that I haven't read or ones that I own and I haven't yet read, so I know how to prioritise my new reads. Also, check out my social medias down below. I've got Instagram, Twitter, Discord, lots of fun. I'm going to try and do a whole bunch more with the Discord in the new year. It's going to be easier, weirdly, once I get back to work and I'm not on holiday, because then I've got a routine and I find it easier to plan things when I have a routine. But without further ado, let's get into my top 10 new manga series of 2021. So number 1, we have Otherworldly, Izakaya, Nobu. So this is one that I read quite recently, actually. I've just read it over Christmas. It is an isekai. It is about food, and it's great. It was just super wholesome. It's published by Udon Entertainment, who aren't the most common of manga publishers. It's got French flaps. It feels like a solid volume, but basically pretty much the story is we're set in this like fantasy town. There are these guards and stuff, and there's this weird restaurant that's appeared called Izakaya, and no, is it called Nobu? I can't remember. Basically, this strange restaurant, which is just a Japanese restaurant, but they can't read any of it because they're not a Japanese town, and it is just this little corner, like, Japanese restaurant that does, like, homely Japanese food, and these, like, every chapter we see a different person go into the restaurant and order food, and often they don't order on the menu, or they take recommendations and they're like, oh, it can't be that good. And it is really good. They love it. It's super sweet. It's just quite a wholesome isekai based around food. And there's like this whole bit, they go in and they're like, I'll have a what's on tap, which is like beer. But what's on tap isn't a thing in this fantasy world. They think it's just like a type of beer. And also it gets served cold. And this is just like, only rich people can have cold beer in this world. So it's amazing. And they only charge like, they don't charge much, it's really cheap. And it's just, in every chapter, it's a different person goes in and eats the food, and it's just so lovely. And I really, really want to pick up more, but it's quite an expensive series, because not only is it a different, Udon Entertainment seems to be a bit more pricey, it's a bigger volume, it's got French flaps, that always seems to make it pricey, it's got colour pages. But yeah, every chapter is just, so each of these people here is one of the people from a different chapter. So we've got some knights, we've got this like evil tax man, we've got like a snooty princess, and then I can't remember who the other ones were. I can't remember who they were, but it was just lovely to read. There wasn't really much of a continuous story, except some characters we saw in other earlier chapters appeared in later ones, but it didn't feel episodic, weirdly enough, unlike some other ones that I've read. I love this one. If you like food, I would definitely recommend this one. So that was my number 10. So my number 9 manga series of the year is A Sign of Affection. So pretty much till lockdown, the only manga I really read was shonen. I hadn't even read much isekai. I know, there was a time when I didn't read isekai. I can't believe it either. I assumed I was just born reading isekai. But no, there was a time when I only really read shonen, One Piece, Bleach, Naruto, Fullmetal Alchemist, and it was about actually a year before lockdown, so 2018, 2019 was 2 years. I first picked up Honey So Sweet, and I started to get a bit more into shoujo, not a huge amount, because honestly I didn't know much about it. I only really knew about shonen because it was advertised in the back of other shonen, or people I knew who watched anime mainly watched shonen, so that was where I got other recommendations. But then when I joined Manga Instagram, like, I feel like a large amount of the Manga Instagram community is women, and a large amount of them seem to be really big into their shoujo, and they're josei. I can't pronounce it. I'm so sorry. But yes, so shoujo and josei were never really big genres for me, demographics, prior to lockdown. And then I'd seen so many recommendations on the gram, and I kept picking ones up because I was like, well, actually sounds alright, that sounds good, I'll pick them up. Like, pretty much, I will read anything, even if it's disgusting, apart from horror, won't touch horror. Right, big scaredy cat, won't touch horror, but I will read anything else, and I do like reading romance. The only reason I hadn't was I just hadn't seen recommendations. But yes, this was leading somewhere, this was leading to A Sign of Affection, eventually. So I had started, I think the first josei I'd really picked up was Sweat and Soap, and I jumped, the reason I got so into Sweat and Soap so quickly was because I put off reading Toilet Bound to Nuka-kun because it had the word toilet in the title, and I was like, that's really weird. And then I saw Sweat and Soap and I was like, nope, I enjoyed Toilet Bound to Nuka-kun, I'm not letting the name of the series put me off, and I got really into that one. And that was my first josei, and I loved it, and I loved how mature the romance was, and it just felt a lot more real. So I got really into it. There aren't that many published in English though technically, I know Sweat and Soap's technically a seinen, not a josei. I know, yeah, I know, but in my head, I don't care. Personally, I feel, though I know it isn't, is how I work around it. But yes, Sign of Affection is a josei, I think, unless someone comes in and is like, no, actually, it's fine. But this is, I think, my favourite josei, and I'm probably counting that above, like, other ones in my Perfect World, and what other ones have I read? If we're not counting so I'll have to think. I think this is my favourite. I think it's lovely. I think it's really, really interesting to see how our main character, who is deaf, is perceived, because we sort of see the whole story from her point of view. So, like, sometimes she'll mishear someone and it means the text in the bubble is a bit strange. It's a bit, there's words, letters in the wrong place or something, and I absolutely love it. I love seeing it from her point of view and how she perceives the world and she walks around. Lovely. I really like the romance. It's really sweet. I love the art style. I think it's gorgeous. Also, we saw Costco in volume 2 or 3, and I love Costco, so that already made it a big win for me. But I think the series is just gorgeous and super sweet, and I am continuously awaiting the next one the moment I finished the current one. Just look at that. So pretty. And find a nice double page spread. Oh, she does a whole bunch where it looks like she's painted it, and it's just, oh. But yes, this is super lovely. I think it's gone on a bit of a hiatus because the manga artist had a kid, I think. So publishing is probably going to slow down because that's probably not quite hit English printing, though volume 4 is just continuously being put back, but that's probably nothing to do with that. That's just an ongoing manga issue. Yes, super wholesome, super lovely, gorgeous art style. Number 8 on the list, and I wasn't quite sure if I should include this because it's a spin-off and it's a one-shot, but it is Dr. Stone Reboot Byakuya, not sure. So I started reading Dr. Stone, I think in 2019 or 2018, so Dr. Stone isn't eligible, but I thought its one-shot spin-off might be. Basically everything I really have to say about this volume is spoilery, so scoot along if you don't want to be spoiled. Basically this is a one-shot volume to show what happened to Senku's dad when the petrification incident occurred, because he was up on the International Space Station, so the group there kind of watched down on what was happening and were like, oh shit. And the whole story is them, the aftermath. It's them being like, what do we do? Then them making their way down to Earth to figure out what's happening, and then they kind of get stranded on an island and they decide to just settle down and live a life, try and make a life, repopulate the Earth in the only way they can. There is a little robot character who is sort of on the space station, looks after it, and the robot gets left behind when they come down to Earth to look after the space station, and oh my goodness, I don't remember the last time that I cried so hard at a manga. I was proper hysterical when I read this. Tears, sniffles, snotty, it would not stop. I finished the volume, I put it down, and then I started again. I could not stop crying, it was awful, and I gave this like a proper 10 out of 10 because I absolutely loved it. But the only problem is I feel you can only get the full impact if you're reading Dr. Stone. You can't read this on its own and get emotional, really. Well, you might, maybe, but I think you need to read Dr. Stone to have some of the like surrounding knowledge around the series before getting into this one. But if you're reading Dr. Stone, definitely read this one, but you probably need to give it to like 15. That was, I think, when I read it, I think it was on like Dr. Stone 15 when I read this one, and I thought that was perfect. I didn't get any spoilers. 16? You might need to check. I'd need to check. I can't remember. But you do need to get so far into the series to not get spoilers and to get like max understanding. Our next series is O Maidens in Your Savage Season. This, honestly, when I first picked it up, I thought it was about witches. I thought, like, looking at the pattern on the cover, it was like, it actually doesn't show that well in the light if I do that a little, maybe you can see it there. It's like lots of white flowers surrounding an outline of one of the girls who's also white, the same colour as the flowers, and it's kind of the same across all the volume covers. It's one of the girls and lots of white flowers, usually. There is some colour. This one doesn't have much colour. Pretty much, this is like a high school. We follow a group of girls in high school experiencing real high school issues. So I'd say, if you think of a high school romance, you often think about, say, like Io Sakisaka, So Love Me Not, Blue Spring Ride, which is quite an idealistic, it's super cute, super sweet, holding hands, everyone blushes, how cute. This one is a bit more realistic, I feel. There's a whole, basically the group of girls are all starting to learn about sex, and they're thinking about sex and wanting to have sex, but typically it's sort of not right for women to think about that. Like the dudes, yes, dudes always think about it, and there's a very telling scene, I think, where a dude's talking to one of the girls and he's like, well, girls don't think about it, do they? And they're like, yes, we do, all the time. And he's like, I don't get it. He doesn't get it. And it kind of continues around that. They're sort of coming to terms with their sexuality. What do they want from a relationship? What do they want from themselves? It's very deep and lovely. The ending, I think, was really good. It's only 8 volumes long. They are Kodansha and they're a bit bigger, so I pretty much tried to pay around $7.99 for each of them, if not less. It's, yeah, wonderfully colourful spines as well, by the way. It's, yes, every girl is going through their own thing and they're all a bit different, and it's really interesting to see them all grow throughout the series and become like their own. It's like the transition from girl to woman, and I loved it. And I would definitely recommend, if any of like slice of life or romance is your sort of thing, I would definitely recommend this one. It was great, and it's definitely not about witches. Our next series is Undead Unluck. There are 3 volumes of this out in the UK, which is very saddening. I'm waiting for volume 4, and it says end of January. Ugh. This is like a new shonen action-y adventure, and I don't know what it is about it, but it is like, it's really like snagged me. I'm loving it. It is just, I don't even know how to describe it because I'm not even sure I fully understand it myself. It's so strange. Like, these characters, these are our main 2 characters, and I can't remember their actual names. I can never remember names. So they have these like strange abilities. His is undead and hers is unluck. And basically, he can't die, and whenever she touches someone, she's really unlucky. And the unluckiness like hits that other person depending on how much she's touched them and how long and stuff. And it's funny, there's great action, I love the fights, there's like some slight romance. I don't actually know how to describe it other than I really enjoy it a lot. And I am constantly checking for volume 4 coming out. We do see he gets naked a lot. There's always some of these black squares. I think the author says there's like 1 a chapter at some point, which this volume alone has a sensible in every chapter. I'm sorry, please try to forgive me. Only 1. But yeah, it's just so strange and great, and it is on the Shonen Jump app. I would definitely try it on there. It's got loads more chapters than are out physically. I'm not a digital person myself, so I will wait for them physically. I don't know how else to describe it. I should have thought of this before I filmed. Our next volume is Kaiju Girl Caramelise. So if you're into your like romance, sweet romance, yeah, that's what this is. There's a twist though, which is, this is our main character here. What's her name? Kuro. And whenever she experiences strong emotions, she turns into a kaiju. And if you don't know what a kaiju is, think like Godzilla, big lizard thing, kind of. And depending on how much emotion she's feeling, it might just be like hands, she might have a tail appear, or she like fully kaiju's out, full massive rampage through the city. It's amazing. And so she's been fine most of her life. She's not really experienced too many episodes. And then she meets a boy. And she likes this boy. And boy likes her back. And she can't, it goes much downhill from there. Because whenever they spend time together, her emotions go haywire and she just transforms. It's great. It's really great. It sounds really weird, but it is. And the art style is gorgeous. It is so pretty. It is super cute and glowy and dewy-eyed, starry, and also she's like made this friend, and I don't want to say too much, but friend is really big fan of the kaiju, and in an almost inappropriate way, and it's great. But I think it's technically a shonen. Apparently, I don't get demographics. I think of it as just a romance. It's a romance. It's super cute. It's lovely. There's only 4 volumes out at the moment in the UK, and volume 5 is meant to be coming out soon at some point. It's another one's got pushed back. It was meant to be out in December, and it's not. Yes, wonderful. Love it. It's hilarious because there's just lots of... She keeps trying to not turn into a kaiju. Like, yeah. Next volume is Heaven's Design Team. Now, I picked this up on a whim because I honestly had no idea what it was about, and I'm so glad I did. I love it. Oh my god. There are 6 volumes out at the moment. 7 comes out at some point this year. They are Kodansha. They're quite thin for their price, but you get so much like information. It's quite intense. So pretty much the gist is God's created the earth, and he needs to create animals to fill the earth now, and but why he doesn't quite have the time, so he's going to outsource it to the design team, which is what this is about. So this is God has outsourced creating all the animals to live on Earth to this design team, and every chapter is God has given like some sort of vague description of an animal that he wants on Earth, and they have to try and satisfy it. So in this chapter, the client has asked for an animal that can bear an impressive weapon, which has led to one of the design team trying to create like a unicorn. And most of the chapter sort of walks through why a unicorn isn't sustainable, why it wouldn't live, about how that like the bone density and this lack of calcium, and it's just really weirdly interesting. I've learned so much about animals, like how many stomachs an elk has and what each stomach is for, and it's so interesting. I've learned so much, and then at the end of every chapter we get a little bio about all the real animals that are talked about in that chapter, so you can actually learn some real stuff as well, not just like entertainment manga stuff. But yes, that is a really neat, I don't know, is slice of life? It's not quite slice of life, just wholesome, chill manga. There's not really much going on. This was great. There's a chapter in volume 3 around otters, and it was so beautiful. I nearly cried. Oh, damn it. Yes. Great. So my next series is Mashle, Magic and Muscles. I loved this series. I'm already really into series with magic, and this had both magic and dumb humour, and it's just perfect series for me. Except it's another series that UK is being hit by delays. I've seen people in the US get volume 4, and volume 3 isn't out over here yet. It's a small price to pay for free healthcare, I suppose. But anyway, yes, Mashle was great. I loved it. It is super slapstick. It's super silly. It's basically our main character doesn't have magic, and he shouldn't be able to, something about, I think they get killed or eliminated or banished if you're born into a magic family and you don't have magic. So he's been, but if you become a certain role, if you're like the best in your school so you can get a role, he might be able to overturn some of those rules, so he'd be able to live peacefully. Could be slightly wrong, I can't quite remember. But so he enrolls into this magic school pretending to have magical abilities, but he doesn't. He just uses his mega brawn to pretend, so people think he is very magical, but he's not. He just like punches his way out of things. It's amazing. It's great. It's like One Punch Man, but we've not ambled off from One Punch Man himself, Saitama. Actually, his face reminds me of Saitama as well. But yes, I really enjoy Mashle. I am on this and Undead Unluck. I'm like constantly on the lookout for a new volume coming out in the UK. Can't wait for volume 3. I'm really hoping volume 4 isn't far behind. I love it. I love it so much. We are approaching the end. We only have 2 volumes left, and volume, I was going to say volume 9. It's volume 2 because we're going upwards. This is the Saviour's Book Cafe story in Another World. This is an Izakaya because I love my Izakaya. This is a josei. If you've read like what's another one? Saint's Magic Power is Omnipotent. It's kind of similar to that. An older woman. I say older woman. She's in her 30s. Has been asked to reincarnate in another world to try and help this world be at peace. And this woman's like, I'm a bit old for that, don't you think? You need someone with a bit more sprite. And this like orb thing is like, no, I want you to go through. And she's like, okay, well, I'd like this list of requests, please. And the orb like grants her requests. She has like weird magic spells that she can do. She's very powerful. And then she has like a furniture catalogue, and she just summoned furniture because she's like, all I want to do is run a book cafe in a quiet part of town. And the elf's like, alright then, okay. And she is reincarnated into this like Wintry Kingdom, which I read this volume like 2 days before Christmas. I got a few days before Christmas, and I was sat next to my Christmas tree, and there was this Wintry Kingdom and this book cafe, and I was like, oh, the vibes, oh, the vibes. But yeah, she opens this book cafe, and so far her first and only customer has been this knight fellow who comes in and he just sits quietly and reads books and eats some of her food, and their relationship is super cute. And other knights have started noticing that he's in a bit of a better mood when he's come back, and they're like, but where's he going? Oh my goodness, it's great. There is also a bit of a threat. It turns out someone else has been reincarnated into the world, but they're like living the high life. They're not trying to help, they're just being a bit of a brat, living in the castle with like the king, queen and the prince, and she's not doing anything. She's just a burden. She kills maids. She doesn't kill maids, she fires maids. She gets them kicked out, not killed. She keeps firing maids because she claimed she like wanted one of their necklaces and they wouldn't give her a necklace. She was like, well, I'm firing you then, and then took the necklace anyway. She's been a right brat and things are not going well, and it's looking like our second saviour, which is this woman, might have to step in and put her in a place or something, and I can't wait for that. I can't wait. I have pre-ordered volumes 2 and 3, which come out in March and May, hopefully in the UK. I would recommend this to, if you enjoy any Jersey series, Sweat and Soap, Perfect World, Sign of Affection, try this one, please. Let this one be your gateway into isekai, please. We are on to our last volume. I have mentioned it before in other videos, so it might not be that much of a surprise. Also, I think I first read it in like February, so it doesn't feel like this is a new 2021 read. But my last top volume read of 2021 is a witch's printing office. Oh my gosh. So this is an isekai, and someone recommended it to me on comments on one of my videos, and I'm so glad they did. Thank you. This is like a top 5 manga series of mine. Basically, this girl has been isekai'd and she wants to get home, and she was at Komiket before she got isekai'd, so what she has decided to do in her infinite wisdom is to set up an equivalent called Magiket, where people from all over the world would come over to sell their magic books, and she feels that this is probably the easiest way for her to try and find a magic that will send her back home by getting it to all congregate in one place at one time. Except it turns out to be really popular, and she ends up spending most of her time just trying to run the event, which hijinks occur. When she's not doing Magiket, she also just runs a publishing business where she prints books, because she's like mastered this copying ability and she uses it. People will like write their magic spell on some paper or something and she'll copy it to more pages and print books, because that's how you share magic, I think. But oh, it is hilarious. The art style is gorgeous. It is so good and like sharp. I don't know how to describe it. I need a good big page spread. You can kind of see it there if I can get that in focus. It is just super lovely. I've seen some people say they're a bit put off because there's a busty woman on the book cover of volume 2 or 3, but like she's just a busty woman. It's not like a harem or harem, or she's just busty. There's like, yeah, that's not like a focus of the story at all, really. But it is so good. There are 5 volumes out, and they're published by Yen Press. They're usually a bit more pricey, like even Forbidden Planet, they're usually $12.99, but I tend to get them on Black Walls for about $7.99, which isn't too bad again. But yes, please give this one a go if you're not into like traditional harem video game like isekais, you might be into this one. It's really funny, really sweet at the same time. Yeah. That was my top 10 series reads in 2021. I'd love to hear what you thought. Do you agree with any of these series? Did I tempt you to want to try any of these series? I'd love to know that. If not, oh well. I feel like some of my descriptions could be a bit better. I'll work on it. But yeah, I loved all these series so much. but there was so many more. I narrowed my list down initially to like 20 series, and then I was like, no, that's too many. And originally I was like, I'm gonna do 5 volumes, and then I was like, I've got 20, we'll do 10, we can stretch to 10, I'm sure. And I'm glad I did, because these are all bangers, really. I definitely recommend all of these to everyone. Otherwise, I'm going to end it there. If you haven't already, don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you're new. Check out my social medias down below. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time. Bye!